Welcome, everyone. My name's Corey Allen, and this is the Overton Report. Today is a big day. Electors are meeting all over the country to decide who is the next president. Well, maybe not. The key states that have been in question throughout this entire process are sending alternate electors as well to cast their votes for Donald Trump. Now, in doing this allows the lawsuits that are pending to remain open so that on January 6th, when the Congress decides to confirm these electoral votes, they will have the option depending on which way the lawsuits land. This is really interesting. Unprecedented times. Now, in the Constitution, the only date mentioned is the 20th of January, so everything just has to be worked out prior to that time. The main arguments have to do with fraudulent ballots being cast, absentee ballots being sent out unrequested, as well as secretaries of state and governors alike coming out with mandates and changing the election rules and election laws without the use of the state legislature as is required by the Constitution. We have no idea how this is going to turn out, and we're going to keep our eye on it as it goes, but here is one of my main takeaways. Polls are saying that at least 80% of those who voted for Donald Trump believe the election was fraudulent, believe that massive voter fraud took place. Now, that is just those who voted for Donald Trump. We know that a lot of Democrats also feel the same way. But let's just look at the 80% of those who voted for Donald Trump. That means that at least 40% of the electorate believes that this election was fraudulent. That is a huge percentage of people. And remember, most people who voted in person voted for Donald Trump. So what does that tell us? Well, that tells us that this high percentage of people who believe it was fraudulent have proven themselves capable and willing to take at least some physical political action in person. Okay? So that's a huge percentage to think that this is a fraudulent election. Now, to dismiss such a huge cross-section of the American population, especially the American voter population, there's no upside to that. There's no upside to that. There's no benefit. There is only danger in doing that. Okay? And refusing to at least take those 40% of people seriously enough to answer their questions that they're asking in a serious and transparent manner. Okay? And very thorough. I mean, they deserve to be heard in a very thorough manner. And I'll tell you, the media, they're lying to you. If you keep listening to them and having them tell you it doesn't matter, I'm telling you it does. I'm telling you, okay? They seem to just keep trying to pull that curtain closed, and it's only going to cause problems. It's already caused problems. It's only going to continue causing problems. Major problems, okay? And even if you don't personally believe it, that doesn't matter. 40% of the voter population does. Don't ignore that. Please don't ignore that. I know that's going to fall on deaf ears because I've been talking about this for months. Please stop ignoring the people when they are telling you that something's up, because if you continue ignoring them, you're going to have to deal with a much more extreme group of people. But it is what it is. Let's talk about all of these white supremacists who happen to also be people of color. In Washington, D.C. this weekend, tens upon tens of thousands of people once again rallied in D.C. We were there. We got a lot of footage of it. You can see it on the Overton Report. And I know what I did see, and I know what I didn't see. I did see some cardboard get burned by a couple of Proud Boys. I did see a bunch of media and leftists and people who love sitting on the fence and playing both sides call it violence. But I also saw those same people ignore 4 conservatives who were stabbed, all in critical condition in the hospital in Washington, D.C. right now, at least one of them from South Carolina. I saw them dismiss and ignore that. Or, even worse, conflate that with burning cardboard. That's insane. What I didn't see were old women being slammed into poles. I didn't see children being thrown to the ground. I didn't see black family members being beaten like I saw happen on November 14th. So that's what I didn't see, thankfully. But I'll tell you, a little closer to home, I also saw a leftist politician who has attacked other private citizens using his position as a politician, attacking me personally once again. But there is something, I saw a couple. I've noticed something about these attacks from these local politicians and their keepers. And what that is that I've noticed that not a single time have any of them challenged me on an intellectual level. That is to say that I make my points, I tell you what's going on, and I make those points clearly and concisely, and all I get in return are things like, did you know he's a recovered opiate addict? Did you know that he got arrested 6 years ago? Yeah, you should know. I've been talking about it for months. I am part of the 1% of opiate addicts that recover without dying. And let me tell you something. If I can beat opiates, a couple of two-faced politicians ain't nothing. So let's remember that, okay? So I'd love to talk about the issues, though. All day, every day, whenever you're ready. What a joke. And then, of course, now we have the ridiculous, baseless accusations of white supremacy. It always goes something like this. He's racist. How? Oh, you know. Well, no, I don't know. How is he racist? Oh, well, obviously you're racist too, since you're not taking my word for it as a white leftist. Cool deal, bro. Cool deal. So nothing then? Oh, well, did you hear what he said about the Equity, Inclusion, and Conciliation Council? Yeah, let's talk about that. Let's talk about what that actually is. Let's not talk about what it could have been. Let's also not talk about what it should be. Let's talk about what it actually is. Yeah? Yeah. What it is a thinly veiled attempt at implementing socialist policies within the city.
Important that we talk about what equity, inclusion, and racial conciliation, what those words mean. When we talk about equity, I think you have to distinguish that from equality. Equality is about sameness without regard to an individual's needs or available resources. Equity is about meeting people where they are and giving people access to what they need.
Now, we have talked about the term equity before here. Here's the basics of what leftists mean when they talk about equity. Tell me if this sounds familiar. To each according to their needs, from each according to their ability. Does that sound familiar? It should. It's straight out of Marx and Engels' teachings.
The work of each subcommittee is built upon the foundation created by the Avery Disparities Report, and we just want to make sure that we acknowledge their work and honor their labor in putting that report together.
Avery Research Center Racial Disparities Report. Now, I have read through this report. There are 80 some odd pages, 86 to be exact. It is very long, but listen. I just want to read you the quote on the cover page, and you'll get an idea for what type of stuff is in this report. Quote, in order for us poor and oppressed people to become a part of a society that is meaningful, the system under which we now exist has to be radically changed. It means facing a system that does not lend itself to your needs and devising means by which you change that system. That sounds a little revolutionary to me. What do you think? And a self-admitted first step in turning protest into policy throughout the entire region.
I like to call this from protest to policy. We are seeking structural change. You've been chosen because we feel that you are radical thought leaders.
Right, Mr. Saccharin?
And our region. So hopefully, our recommendations don't just focus on the city, that our recommendations really look at a comprehensive overview of our entire region.
As if you needed any further proof, all you need to do is look at the constant use of language in all of their meetings, taken straight from the writings of Marx and Engels with a little racial spin on it. And that's the problem. We can't have a frank, real discussion about the issues in the city because you sneak communist and socialist rhetoric that is 120 years old into it every single time. Come on. And let's not forget they were also attempting to put the head of an anarcho-communist group called the People's Army of Charleston on the Criminal Justice Reform Subcommittee. The same dude who's laughing right now online about 4 conservatives being stabbed in Washington, D.C. Yeah, that guy. When are Charleston politicians gonna condemn them? They won't. They'll just offer these literal communist groups and their members positions in the city's key decision-making rooms, behind closed doors, as they continue destroying your city and your state. And let me tell you something about some of these third-rate conservative intellectuals in this area. If you're a conservative intellectual, you don't usually have to go around telling everyone that you're a conservative intellectual, okay? As a matter of fact, if you have to run around telling everybody that you're a conservative intellectual, the odds are you're the furthest thing from that. Also, using the term virtue signaling to describe any and everything during a debate when someone disagrees with you is the opposite of what a conservative intellectual does. Especially when 50% of the time these people use that term in a conversation or a debate, it's being used in an objectively incorrect manner. So, what do politicians and those in power do when someone calls them on their BS? Every time, left or right, they attack that person with personal attacks. Not on the issues, not with intellectual arguments, but with personal attacks and name-calling.
He aligned himself with the contemporary conservative, Tyler Bessinger. He aligned himself with Corey Allen, with the Overton Report. He aligned himself with Eric Benjamin Corcoran, with, I guess they're We the People or something like that. These people support white supremacy.
I didn't see any of that when leftists burned and looted Charleston. I haven't seen any of it since, as those same groups continue to intimidate, dox, harass, and wreak havoc all over the Tri-County and the state, and the nation for that matter. So you tell me who's really speaking truth to power? Is it the leftists who everything they say, they get away with, everything they do, there's no consequences, or is it the conservatives? Well, I'll tell you who it isn't. It sure as hell isn't the socialist and anarchist groups that are running through the city. It's conservatives who are telling you what's really going on and being attacked for it. I'd love to have a debate with Jason Saccharin and his ilk about their flawed points of view and his attacks on private citizens using his position to do it. And about his sticking his nose into naval intelligence and national security matters, which have nothing to do with him. But he wouldn't do that. And why wouldn't he do that? Because it wouldn't play well into his lies and his accusations, obviously. But me and us here at the Overton Report, we will keep telling you the truth, regardless of which politician gets upset about it, regardless of which conservative intellectual gets mad. Because for me, this is about principles, not personalities. And it always has been. I told you from the start that I'd be here to take the pies in the face. I told you from the start that I would go after these people so that you could handle what you needed to handle. Because they can dox me, they can come after me, they can attack me personally, they can even threaten my life. They've done it all. But the truth is the truth. And sometimes it might make some leftists mad. Sometimes it might make some conservatives mad. But that's okay. Because again, this is about principles and not personalities. But until then, I'm Corey Allen, and this has been The Overton Report.